tonight. Those who were here earlier, this is the Spain trip. This one might not look like there's a closet, but it's much cheaper. So Mike's gone up to adventure. He's been here 6 years. He's going to give you a bit of an idea about the camp, and then afterwards we'll take some questions. But hopefully you can also enjoy children on the camp, because it is, to me, it's the highlight of the year. At school, so over to you, Mike.
All right, thank you. Thanks everybody for coming tonight. I'll try not to take up too much of your time. I know it's getting late and everybody wants to go home at this point. I do want to overview everything that Upslope Adventure does, so our staff, our facilities. I have a short video to show which kind of does that overview, and then I have a few slides. I'll get into a bit more detail on some things, and then open it up to any questions you might have.
So as I said, that's a pretty good overview, but there's definitely some more details we want to give you. So first of all, we are an adventure tour company. We obviously work with school groups, but we also do private guiding on the weekends for like families and small groups of friends, coming down to do half or full day local adventures. We do international expeditions both for schools and privately. So we do things like Machu Picchu, the Inca Trail. We do Kilimanjaro, we do Outer Space Camp, Ras Tashed in Ethiopia. Really, we can customize a trip to anywhere that someone wants to go, provided that there's enough people who want to go with them. So we have our hands in a lot of aspects of the adventure tour industry. We've been around since 2004. and specifically working with the GEM schools. Well, now from this contract, this is the 3rd year, and then before World Challenge was contracted, we worked with a number of GEM schools as well. So we've got a number of years working in GEMs and with schools in general. One of the more important things that I want to talk about, and it was mentioned in the video, that our staff are all internationally certified. But what's that actually mean? So here in the UAE, there is no outdoor industry standard. There's no governing body for the outdoor industry that says staff needs to have these qualifications and the gear you use needs to be these specs. And you need to inspect that gear this many times per, every this many uses or however many. So what we're doing is we're following US and UK standards. So to explain that a little bit, in the US, there's the WRMC, the Wilderness Risk Management Conference, and in the UK, there is the AALA, the Adventure Activity Licensing Authority. And those are governing bodies that set the standards, what people need to have for qualifications. So each discipline that we offer falls under a different qualification. So for example, trekking, the instructor needs to have a mountain leader award. For climbing, they need to have a single pitch award. And there's a different qualification for every type of activity that we're offering. And the instructor who we have on your student's activity group will have that qualification. So this requires me to explain our staff structure a little bit. When the group comes down, they're obviously a large group, say 75, 80 students coming down at a time. And we break them into smaller groups, activity groups they're called. And then we assign each activity group a counselor. A counselor is one of our staff members who stays with that activity group throughout the duration of their stay. Then we have instructors who are fixed to an activity for the duration of the stay. So they don't rotate with the group, they stay on that activity, and the counselor stays with the group. This allows a couple of things. First of all, it means that we get the people who are qualified best to run those activities on that activity for the entire duration. And then the counselor, who's essentially a person who's trying to become an instructor, they have some qualifications, but not yet enough to be an instructor, is staying with the activity group to get to know the students and help to facilitate the learning outcomes that we're really going for with trips like these. And those learning outcomes would be things like independence and communication, leadership, all things we can facilitate through adventure sports. So really by doing this structure, we have the best of both worlds. And it allows our counselors to become better instructors, to eventually get the hours they need to get the qualifications to be instructors. So it really helps us develop our staff too. Above our counselors and instructors who are actually working directly with the students, we have a program coordinator. So this person's role is really specifically to make sure that the itinerary and learning outcomes that are developed by our education manager, Dee, who works along with the teachers here, are being met. So Dee is taking this itinerary, all the goals that the school wants, all the activities that they want, and developing the program, passing all that information to, in this case, because the program will be in Tibba, to Nathan Hill. And Nathan will be making sure that the instructors are following the itinerary to the letter and making sure that everything stays organized and running smoothly. That being said, all of our staff, counselors, instructors, program coordinators, supervisor, and managers, everybody has at least a wilderness first aid certification. So anybody who's around the students at any time is capable of applying first aid. And since I'm talking about first aid, and this is probably the most commonly asked question, the nearest medical center to the camp is about 7 minutes away, and it's fantastic. They're really, really great with the kids. And that means that the furthest they'll ever be away from that medical center is when they're doing the rock climbing activity. We'll talk about that in a bit, which is about 20 minutes away from where the medical center is. All right. So just to touch on this, it's not incredibly important. This is because it's just year 5 that's coming to us. But our goal is to create a progressive program. So with a lot of schools, we have many year groups coming back to us. We've got centers throughout the UAE and Oman, so we can vary where the students go to. And we have multiple activity levels for each discipline. So we'll have a beginner's mountain biking session, and then a slightly more difficult, an intermediate, and then an advanced, where they're doing new terrain, working on new skills. And we do the same with climbing, with kayaking. They'll go further, they'll work on
more complicated strokes. They'll have to work together as a team better to accomplish the goal of the trip in basically a more complicated way. So we are able to produce a progressive program, and that's part of why Dee is working with the teachers so that she can understand what the students have already done in year 4 and then apply the best activities and tasks for this trip in year 5. Just a couple of things that make us unique. We do have access to several areas around the UAE and Oman that we're exclusive providers for. A couple of them being the reserves in Kalba, which there's a new mangrove reserve and then an acacia forest reserve. Both are recently set up just about a year and a half ago and are currently in a rehabilitative state. We'll be an exclusive provider for activities in those areas. We're also an international partner of Leave No Trace. Now, Leave No Trace is an environmental awareness initiative that basically is trying to build awareness of human impact on the environment, how we can reduce our impact on the environment, and how we can educate others to reduce their impact on the environment. So we try and incorporate the principles of Leave No Trace into all of our programs. And this isn't done through kind of a classroom setting, sit down and learn these 7 principles. It's done through teachable moments. So being out in an activity and finding human impact on the environment, litter for example, and talking about how that affects the environment and how that affects our experience in the wilderness can be a lasting memory, something that you take with you back into everyday life and actually try and apply. So, where are we based? Like I said, we're kind of all over the place. This particular camp will be taking place in Dibba, Oman. So yes, it is in Oman. Yes, that means that a passport is required to cross the border. But if you've ever been to Dibba, it's a kind of unique border. There's not an Omani checkpoint there. So it's just a matter of us processing paperwork, which we do by taking a copy of everybody's passport and residence visa. Please make sure they're valid. Not that you don't have a valid passport or visa now, but oftentimes people turn in the older copies that they find on their computers just out of error. So please just make sure that everything is up to date and will be up to date at the time of the trip. Starting that process early is obviously important because you can't get a residency visa or passport renewed within 2 weeks of the trip. So we take these passport and visa copies and we process all the paperwork. There's no extra cost involved in that. It's just a bunch of hassle on our end to get all the letters written and processed by immigration down there. And then they do take their physical passport along. Then we'll have either the teachers collect the passports before they leave the bus, or we can do it, and then we'll lock them up in our safe for the duration of the trip. And they'll only get them back when they're back on the bus and ready to go home. So the passports will be safe and sound. And if you're familiar with the area, there's the Golden Tulip Hotel down there. Our camp is about 1 kilometer from that. So just over the border, it's only about a 5-minute drive once they cross the border. It probably takes about 2.5 hours altogether from leaving here to actually arriving in the camp, depending on how long it takes to go through the border. And they'll stay at our plantation camp, which has a really large capacity. We've got 120 on here, but actually that's our ideal capacity. We can take up to 180 people in the camp. It's set in a functioning date plantation, so it's a really cool environment, lots of natural shade. We've got the areas of the camp and the farm very distinguishable. The parts where the students can go and the camp is all graded with gravel. Actually, in the bottom left photo, you can kind of see the aerial shot there. You can see it's thinned out. We've got a big horseshoe of tents. We do guys on one side, girls on the other, and then the teachers, luckily for them, right in between. They are permanent tents, so they're a steel frame welded together, mounted to a concrete platform with bunk beds inside. It's kind of like luxury camping. There is electricity, but not for charging electronic items, just for lights and a ceiling fan. There shouldn't be any electronic items, especially mobile phones, on the trip. It's only 2 nights, and they'll be really, really busy the whole time. So there's no need for movie watching on iPads, and it just opens up a whole realm of damages that can happen to all these precious goods. I do recommend bringing a camera. A disposable waterproof camera is what I highly recommend because they're nearly indestructible, and if they do break, it's not a big deal. My camera and my phone are the same thing. It's not an acceptable reason to have a mobile We get that one a lot. Some other facilities that we have within the site. We've got 2 large Magulus areas, and for eating and relaxing for the students. We have some tables for our staff and for the teachers to eat at. And then we've got a large buffet area and an on-site kitchen. We do prepare all the food fresh on site. And of course we accommodate any dietary and allergy needs. But in general, the food is copious. There's more than enough all the time. Basic and mildly spiced. There's never going to be anything that's off the charts. Typical meals, there's a biryani night, for example. It's like a biryani, chicken biryani. There's also like a mild veggie curry for a vegetarian option. We will always have a vegetarian soup and 2 different types of salads and a dessert, and fruit is available all day, every day. And then like lunches could be shredded chicken wraps where students can put together their own sandwich with whatever toppings they want and some salads to go along with it, fruit. We provide water, of course, and some like mixed soft drinks, nothing fizzy. We try to promote a healthy diet too, so there's no just like taking a mountain of chips for dinner and nothing else. It's like you don't take salad, you don't take chips. So we do try and make it healthy. This I actually put on as an example, but we've just been discussing it and trying to finalize the schedule, which will be finalized in the coming days, but it looks actually as if these activities will be pretty changed up. We're not going to do survival. We're not going to do the which way trek either. We're going to do the water discovery and the abseiling. The abseiling, everybody know what abseiling is? It's like descending down a rope on a rock face. Yeah? It can be somewhat boring for the people who are waiting around, so we try and incorporate some other activities in there as well. So there could be climbing with the abseiling, or weaseling, which is like scrambling through the boulders and finding small holes to squeeze through, things like that. And there's also some abandoned villages in the region, or in the area that we're doing the abseiling, so they could go and explore the abandoned villages and go fossil hunting, that type of thing as well. And the water discovery, actually the video that I was playing as we were kind of waiting with the previous school group, they were doing the water challenge. It's kind of a breakup of a bunch of different activities at the beach, where they go zorbing, they go snorkeling, they go kayaking, and then they just kind of have like a fun run around and kids activity as part of that as well. So we break them into even smaller groups when we're doing that. And then the other one would be a half-day Dow trip, which is what we're adding in instead of the survival. So the half-day Dow trip will be on the morning of the last day, and they will go out for like 3.5 hours on the Dow, get a chance to jump off the boat, swim around, do some more snorkeling, and it's just a good, fun way to end the trip, kind of a reward for the challenges that they've been doing. Just some descriptions. That's all I'm going to drone on about. Kind of spat out a lot of information here, but if you have any questions, now is the time. And if you, yes?
Yeah, would you be able to tell us please how many kids per instructor?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a maximum group size is typically 16, and there'll be 2 of our instructors, or 2 of our staff, a counselor and an instructor, and then 1 teacher from the school. So 3 adults with 16 students. So it's actually well exceeds the industry standard for ratio.
And from the aerial picture, I see a mesh around the
Yeah, the site is completely secure. It's like a chain link fence around the whole thing, but then it's covered in porosity to make it look traditional. And it's locking gates at any entrance point.
gate.
Yes. Yes.
So the dates you set?
Sorry?
Are the dates for the trip being set?
Yeah, what are they? The first week of
8th
March.
of March.
And basically the whole grade is going in that week, but we're doing 2 different trips back to back. There's just too many to have an efficient trip with only 2 nights and have like 150 students, which is typically what we get from year 5 here. So by breaking it in half and doing them back to back, they have much better options and much better time. Yes?
How many kids in one room?
I'm sorry, I can't.
How many kids in one room?
How many kids in one room? There'll be 12 beds
6 bunk beds in each, but we won't have to put that many, so it'll probably be 8 or 10 in each tent. They're big, they're like walk-in cabin type tents.
And every tent has washroom?
No, there's a separate bathroom block. So the tents, if I go back, you can probably see everything. You can see the tents in the horseshoe shape on the bottom right of this picture here. So we've got the tents here, and this is the bathroom block here.
It's far. It's far.
It's not far, it's just a few meters. So this distance is probably 15 meters. And it's all, we have lights at night, so if students do have to get up at night and go to the bathroom, there's some dim lights that they'll be able to see just fine. And that whole area is completely graded, there's no surprises.
So they can go out and run in.
Yeah, there's no problem.
No issue.
No, not at all. Other questions? Yes?
Ceiling, is it from the rock or?
Yeah, it's all the, excuse me, the climbing and abseiling activities we do. Right, I wanted to touch on that. The reason that that's the furthest activity from the medical center is because we're transferring into our local wadi. And so we've developed all of these climbing routes and abseiling routes. We've put in the bolts, we've cleaned off the rock and everything. And in each site we typically have kind of different levels of, well, the abseiling routes is kind of all the same level, right? But the climbing routes, they'll be easy, medium, and hard. And the site is broken down into kind of age groups, age categories. So we'll take them to one of the intermediate or the introductory sites where they can do some basic climbs and do the easiest abseils. Excuse me. And yeah, that's why it's about 20 minutes away from the camp. Other questions?
When you post this presentation on the school,
Yeah. This will be, the presentation, the slides will be posted. There'll be a link to the video, and actually we're being videoed right now. So I think this whole thing will be up there.
I'll post it on the Unified link, so it's
Yes. Good question. Yeah, we'll send out a kit list. The kit list doesn't have anything extreme on it. The only thing that you may not have already would be a sleeping bag. But we're talking 50 dirhams R4 sleeping bag here, not 500 dirhams Adventure HQ. There's no need to run out and buy any expensive equipment for these trips. Think old clothes, old athletic clothes, old trainers. The one surprise that many people get is we do ask that 3 different pairs of footwear come. One is for dry things, like hiking or going climbing. So it should be tight-fitting trainers with good grip, not Chuck Taylors, you know, the Converse rubber tip shoes. Those don't have any grip and they get shredded on the rocks. Those are not trainers, in other words. An older pair of trainers for going in the sea, or it actually says on the kit list water shoes. There's no need to go out and buy a water-specific pair of shoes. You can if you want, or if you already have them, that's great. But we need to have students wearing shoes on the beach for risk management issues. We need to make sure that their foot isn't going to get cut on a piece of glass that could be there, or a shell, step on a sea urchin, whatever. So we need shoes up there, and I would recommend just an old pair of trainers that, yeah, it doesn't matter if they get wet. And then a third pair would be just camp shoes, flip-flops or Crocs, or something that's comfortable after the day that they can wear around camp.
How about water sports? Kids can go to swimming?
Yeah, with any of the activities that we do, we operate a challenge by choice philosophy, so we're not going to make anybody do anything. But by the same token, with all of the activities that we do, we will encourage people to try new things. That's the point of these trips. Get out of your comfort zone and learn something about yourself and the peers around you by being outside of your comfort zone. With water sports, as an example, everybody who's doing a water sport with us, any student, is wearing a personal flotation device, a life jacket, at all times in the water. So really, nobody needs to know how to swim, they can just bob around. But we will, of course, take into account any fears.
Yes.
And what's the proposed cost of the trip?
The cost is going to be about 1,650 dirhams, including the transport. The Dow trip does cost a little bit extra, but we've decided to go ahead with that because it's such a great experience for the students. But that's literally including everything. The one thing I will say about that in terms of inclusions is we do ask that the parents pack a lunch for the students on the first day. The reason for that is basically timing. So by the time the students get to camp, move all their stuff from the bus into the tents, get in, have their briefing, get changed or get into their activity groups and get changed, and then get out on an activity. If we try and fit a buffet lunch in there with 75, 80 kids trying to eat, we'll never get out for an afternoon activity, or at least not a full one. So by having a packed lunch, they can have a bite to eat on the bus, or they can eat while they're getting their briefing, and then we get out on time and get that full half-day activity on the first day. And then, by the same token, we provide the packed lunch for the way back. So it's to facilitate the same thing. They get the full morning's activity. We don't cut anything short, and then they can get ready, get on the bus, get all their bags packed, and then get a packed lunch to come back to Dubai and be back at a normal school let-out time, 2:30.
Thanks, Mike.
Sure.
Thanks very much.
If you do come up with any other questions that you haven't asked now, let the teachers know. If they don't know the answers, they'll put you in touch with me directly.
There are only two activities in this trip, abseiling and the water activity, right?
I'm sorry?
There are only two activities on this trip.
There's going to be 4 daytime activities and 2 evening activities. Evening activities will be more camp-based, like astronomy. We can do some team building games within the camp as well, or just a campfire. And then the 4 activities are the Dow trip, the abseiling, the water challenge, and mountain biking.
What are the temperature of the water? Will it be cold this time?
I'm sorry?
The temperature, water temperature?
No, it shouldn't be too bad. I mean, the water will be cooler than it is now because it's going to be after the winter, not after the summer. But the air temperature will be quite warm, so it'll feel refreshing.
They leave early in the morning on the day of the camp, right?
Yeah, at a reasonable hour, like 8:30, meet at the school and take off.
Yeah, and the lunch, you know, I mean, how many hours later they're going to have their lunch?
Around noon. So yeah, the goal is to have them through the border by 11:30 and at the camp.
5 hours.
Yeah, so yeah, it should be fine if you just pack a bagged lunch. Doesn't have to be anything special. Some fruit, snacks, a sandwich, that type of thing.
Okay, can I just, final thing, in the next 2 weeks, you should receive a letter with probably the kit that the children require on camp, and a commitment that will allow the child to go on the camp. So that's what we're looking for. So we get the numbers tonight, so we know the value for the camp. So within the next couple of weeks, expect a couple of forms about the camp. And as I say, you can see this will be posted on the Take This Reading, your 5 newsletter, so you can watch it all again. Thank you very much for coming.